In today's video, I'm going to talk about narcissistic collapse or decompensation. I'm going to explain what this means, what causes it, and what it looks like. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. I've been pretty slow to make this video because this is a really hard topic to explain. And I also haven't really been able to find any professional sources that really go into detail about what I think is some sort of unique phenomenon. I myself would like to understand this a little bit better, and it's still a little bit of a mystery to me. And that's why I never felt quite ready to make this video, but I thought I do have quite a bit to share on this, and I've waited long enough. In order to explain the collapse of a narcissist, we first need to understand a narcissist's day-to-day psychology, what moment to moment is like for a coping narcissist, a narcissist that has things pretty much under control, the best that a narcissist can have things under control. Life to a narcissist is kind of like a river. It's kind of like being on a raft on white rapids that never ever stop. There's no rest, there's no tranquility, there's no time to stop and reflect. It's just constant movement, constant change, constant chaos. Without constant distraction, narcissists have no choice but to sit with themselves and to recognize some extremely uncomfortable feelings that they can never really get away from. Narcissists are in a constant state of running away from themselves, of distracting themselves. You, if you are somebody that supplies narcissistic supply, are somebody that the narcissist relies on to provide this distraction, to provide feedback, to provide reassurance that he or she is on the right path in this chaotic flowing river. Your constant feedback, the constant chaos, and the constant movement of these distractions is what both gives the narcissist a false sense of identity while also distracting the narcissist from the narcissist's lack of identity. The narcissist's lack of identity is a huge gaping hole that he or she is constantly kind of aware of. This is what he or she is running away from. The narcissist's false identity is what he or she needs you to constantly reassure them of through supply. They're like a pinball, constantly bouncing back and forth between all the little gates in this pinball machine. They can't just hold still. They need to constantly be getting feedback. They need to constantly be reassured that they really are this false identity that they're pretending they are. In the life of a pathological narcissist, this constant conflict with you, which can be coming from arguments that they're starting with you, chaos that they're starting with you, drama that they're causing, this is the meaning of their life. This is all they know. This is all that really means anything, is constant reassurance that they matter, because their ability to create constant conflict and chaos and drama, their ability to continually be this pinball that's bouncing off of all these gates, gives them a feeling that they exist, that they matter, that they're important, that they're relevant, and that they are in control of their environment. Getting reactions from you is the meaning of their life. Upsetting you, manipulating your emotions, controlling your emotions, causing you to believe things about them that aren't true. These are the things that give them direction. When you suddenly cut this off, when a narcissist suddenly loses supply, the narcissist is completely lost. They've lost their guidance. They've lost the meaning to their life. They don't know what to do. And this is why it's so common for a narcissist to have several different people that they can go to when they're feeling lost. This is why they may have several different romantic relationships at a time. Or they might just have extra friendships, people that they can run to in an emergency that will validate them. Maybe if you stop reacting to their abuse and their provocations, They have someone they know they can go to and sit and complain about how terrible you are, and that person will validate them, reassure them, and provide them with the supply they need to get through that moment. A collapse happens when the narcissist doesn't have anybody to go to. From what I've seen, a collapse can happen when the narcissist has a very close, probably romantic partner that they have relied on very heavily for the supply, and this partner has really never let them down. This partner has always provided them all the reassurance they need, has always reacted to them emotionally, to all their provocations. They've been very, very dependable, and then all of a sudden they stop reacting. Maybe they didn't really have any backups ready. I think this can also happen in a situation where a narcissist really doesn't have any control over anything. An example of this may be when a narcissist is perhaps incarcerated, or maybe committed to a mental hospital for some reason. Or really, maybe any situation in which a narcissist is forced to realize that he or she really doesn't have control of the whole world, that the narcissist is capable of being overpowered, that there are others that may at times have authority over the narcissist that the narcissist cannot defy. Being forced to reckon with reality, being forced to recognize that they are not the center of the universe can cause a collapse. So what happens inside of a narcissist's mind when a narcissist collapses? I've really tried very hard to think of how to describe this. How to describe what it feels like for somebody that is pathological, that has no stable sense of identity, who suddenly loses the only grasp on reality that they have, the only sense of identity that they can find. Imagine that raging river that I mentioned a little earlier. Imagine that you're the narcissist and your whole life is rolling down this river on a raft. Imagine falling off of this raft and maybe even having to close your eyes, having to fall through a raging river with your eyes closed. Imagine looking into the mirror and there's nothing there in the mirror. Imagine having to get yourself ready in the morning, having to get dressed and do all the normal things you do in the morning with no mirrors available. When you look in the mirror, there's nothing there. There's no sense of self. There's nothing there to reflect back to you. There's no guidance. You're just kind of winging it. You're just kind of guessing. You have no idea what you really should do, what you look like to others, how you're coming off. Imagine being in a crowded room full of people and you look around and nobody has a face. They're all just completely faceless people, and you don't know if they're looking at you or talking to you or if anybody's even noticing you. You're not even really sure if they're really people or if you know them or if you would recognize them, if you could see them. You're completely lost in this sea of faceless people. Or imagine that you're in a crowded room full of people and you're screaming something at the top of your lungs. You're trying to get anyone's attention. You're begging for help and nobody can hear you. Nobody looks up. Nobody seems to notice you. Nobody even flinches when you scream right in their face. When narcissists collapse, they all seem to become the same person. And the best way I can describe this is to imagine the classic horror film. You know, the classic horror film where maybe there's a damsel in distress. It's usually a woman for some reason. Sometimes it's a guy, but they're being attacked by the big monster in the movie and they're screaming and they're crying and they're begging for their life. That scene, that classic scene that you see in so many horror movies, that character, whoever he or she was throughout that movie, they've suddenly become the same character. They've suddenly become a desperate, terrified person begging for their life, and that's all they are in that moment. Everything else about their character disappears, is stripped away. And if you watch these types of scenes from a horror movie and you somehow just did a montage where you watch these scenes over and over, you would see the same character over and over again, even though if you watch the whole entire movie, I'm sure that these characters would be very different from each other. That's what it's like to see a narcissist collapse. When a narcissist is actually collapsing or decompensating, They all look very, very similar to each other. They behave the same way. They have the same look in their eye. There's the same desperation. There's the same kind of terror. There's the same sense of being lost. And what is most unsettling about this is that no matter how long you've known this person, they become somebody that you would never recognize. You would never dream in a million years that the person that you thought you knew would ever be behaving in the way that you're seeing them behave right now. Seeing somebody that you've known for years, that's maybe like a really big, tough, macho guy, suddenly crying, looking terrified, behaving like a desperate, helpless, terrified child. And when you don't understand what's happening, this is even more unsettling because it just doesn't seem to make any sense. Maybe all you did was finally start to stand up for yourself. Maybe you told this person that you had enough and that you were leaving, or maybe you just stopped reacting to their provocations. It just doesn't seem to fit. Why would this person be this upset over somebody just not wanting to argue with them anymore? There are some very specific words that very precisely describe what it feels like for a narcissist to collapse. And I think desperate is probably the most important word. It's probably the most prominent emotion that narcissists are feeling. They're feeling a sense of desperation, of panic. They feel completely lost. They feel terrified, and they feel helpless. A narcissist that is collapsing, that cannot find anybody to provide them with reassurance or supply, is like a little baby wandering around in the winter in the woods alone and lost. And the look that you will see in their eyes is similar to what you might see in the eyes of somebody that's dangling over a cliff ledge. Imagine holding the hand of somebody that's dangling over a cliff ledge, and your hand is the only thing that's keeping them from falling down the cliff. The look that you might see in somebody's eyes that's in that kind of a situation is the look that you'll see in the eyes of a narcissist that's collapsing. Now, because most of us are empathetic beings, no matter how much crap this narcissist has put us through, in my opinion, this is not something I would wish on my worst enemy. And ironically, when I've witnessed it, I've been witnessing it happen to the person that probably is my worst enemy. And for me, it really is hard not to feel sorry for them, even after everything they've done, even though they really do kind of deserve it. But I just want to caution you not to let this suck you back in, and not to fool yourself into thinking that you can somehow help this person. You cannot solve this person's problems. You cannot save them. You cannot fix this thing that is causing them to feel this way. There is nothing special about you or anyone else that can somehow make this all better. Whomever the narcissist is able to manipulate will do. There is no reason for you to sacrifice yourself for this person, because you can't do any good for this person. All you can do is throw your own life away. All you can do is hurt yourself for somebody that doesn't want help. They don't want help. They don't want this problem solved. They just want you to keep reacting. They just want you to keep enabling them. They don't want to address the problems that are causing this. And if you really wanted to help them, the best thing really that you can do is to walk away. If there was a tiny sliver of chance that they would seek help, it would be after their very last hope of supply has walked away from them, not stayed and tried to help. There is no reward for trying to help a narcissist. You might be wondering, if you ever witness a narcissistic collapse, what you should do. Now, I certainly can't give you professional advice on this, so I can only kind of guess, and I can only tell you what I've done and what worked for me. I really think the best thing you can do is pretty much nothing. Don't react, don't add any fuel to the fire. And really, when I've been in these kind of situations, I was really too stunned to really say or do anything anyway. But I would be very careful not to provoke this person. And if possible, I would remove myself from the situation as quickly as possible, because I don't think that a collapsing narcissist is a safe person to be around. they're really capable of anything in that moment because of how desperate they are. I certainly wouldn't recommend trying to talk them down or trying to communicate in any way. My best advice is just to get out of there as quickly as you possibly can. And if you're wondering about whether or not this permanently affects them, I don't think it does. In my experience, it doesn't. They bounce back very quickly once they find supply again. This is just my own speculation and my own opinion, but I believe that these narcissistic collapses are just symptoms of the trauma that narcissists live with. So they aren't really new, fresh trauma, a new traumatic experience in and of themselves. They're more of a symptom of the trauma that the narcissist lives with every single day. They're really a moment where the narcissist's normal coping mechanisms stop working. So as soon as they get those unhealthy coping mechanisms back online, they're fine again. But really, narcissists are never fine. So if you're wondering if a narcissist ever recovers from a collapse, they do. They recover from the collapses, but they never really recover from the things that made them narcissists in the first place. I would really be interested in anybody's feedback if any of you have witnessed this yourselves, what your opinions are on this subject and how you've seen narcissists act that you believe were collapsing. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.